Do you worry that when you come to die, you're going to feel like you wasted your life? Or maybe you're just not living your best life right now. Or maybe you could be doing better. Or maybe people tell you have a whole bunch of potential and you think they might actually be right. Well, you're in luck because today's
And you're just
episode,
wasting it.
we're yeah, we're going to be talking about how not to waste your life. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny, do you ever, right now,
Right now.
when you think about yourself as an old person on your deathbed, okay? Because we all have these great reflective moments on our deathbed before we pass. We're surrounded by family and loved ones, and they're holding our
Yeah.
hands and, you know, to grace us in the transition into the afterlife. Do you think at that moment that you're going to feel like you
Paint a
wasted your
picture.
life in any capacity?
I mean, I hope not. As of right now, I don't
Yeah.
think I will. I hope I won't. And that's the hard thing, though, right? It's like, because you never, I think this is the thing that most of us, or at least I get hung up on too, is like you also never know for sure. Like, you don't know what you're going to regret, right? So it's like, and I think that's the hard thing of like, we've said many times, like, you can do anything, but you can't do everything, right? That's the whole thing about choosing. And it's like, so. The trick is to make the choices that are good for you or right for you for the things that you would otherwise regret so you don't miss out on them. But you have to make those choices. And it's not always clear what those choices are, you know? I think that's the
Yeah.
difficulty.
It is a tricky one. I like the way that you put it there. I was actually talking with a friend kind of on a similar thing the other day about how, like, one of the things, because I worry all the time that I'm going to regret that I wasted my life or,
I wasted
you
my
know, yeah. And like, I was talking with him and, like, I was talking about how, like, I feel there's a possibility I could get to the end of my life and regret that I didn't get married, that I didn't have kids. And he's he's been married and divorced and he has kids and he's like the only reason you feel that way is because you haven't been married and you don't have kids.
Yeah,
and and like it was funny, but he also had a point because like I went to school to be
I
a
haven't been
veterinarian
married. I
because I
don't have
thought that's what
kids.
I wanted. Yeah. But
By
like
those
I
things.
went to veterinary school and it took going there and working in that profession to realize that that's not what I wanted. So like, but had I have never gone, I might have regretted that I didn't go.
That's the thing, right? Is like you have to do those things to know with a certainty because we never know. We don't know until we do it, right? And so like you have to try them to see that it's not right for you to then move on and not.
Right.
But if
So
you
the
don't
question
do
is, do
it,
I need to get married and have a kid right now so I can know that's not for me?
then you can just forget about them and leave them. Oh God, this is a mistake. Get out of here. No,
Mhm.
yeah, it's tough, right? I mean, that's the hard thing because I think like the the difficult or the trick of it is we have to know ourselves, and most of us don't know ourselves. We're so worried about other people. We're so worried about, keeping up with the Joneses or looking good or whatever that we forget like that we have our own values, our own things that matter to us, and that's what we're going to regret the most. And I think, for most of us, like for most, we always, you read all the time, like most people when they die, and they don't regret that they didn't work more or, this and that. They regret like usually things like seeing people, friends and family, spending time with loved ones, stuff like that, or experiences. Usually that's the things we regret. It's not like I regret I didn't get the iPhone 14 when it came out. That's not going to be a regret because another phone's going to come out, I can always get another one
Because
later,
by the
but
time you die, it'll be the iPhone 300 and
700.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, we're not gonna regret stuff, but we're probably gonna regret like, I wish I did go to like that place that I always thought about going to and never went to, or like, hanging out with those people. And this is hard because you got to do that stuff when you can, you know? And I think this is the other part. We wait too long. Like we just put stuff off because it's so much easier to put stuff off than to do it. And then, you get to the point where you're older and like you might not have time, you might not have the health to do the things you want to do, and that's really where it gets hard, I think. And that regret comes in.
That's a good point. Like I never realized until I read that book Die with Zero that pretty much your prime years are like 30 to 50. Like that's it. You have the most amount of money, the most amount of time and the most amount of health between those years. Before then, you're lacking money. After then, you're lacking time or health. And it's just like
Yeah,
it's challenging to try and fit it all in during that time period.
It really is, though. It is hard. And I think, we put so much pressure on ourselves too. On the other hand, too, it's kind of funny because like there's a part of me that also knows like that, like, you know, in a certain sense, this is what it is. So like there's nothing to regret. It just life. Like there's no and I can't know that doing that thing would have been good anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to know that either with certainty. So it's
Hmm.
like in a certain sense there shouldn't be any regret, but on the other side of it, like we're people and we have these dreams and stuff, so we will regret things.
True.
You know?
True. And there's also like I don't it's not reductio ad absurdum, but it's kind of like if you don't regret stuff now or don't feel like you waste your life now, then you probably won't later on. And so yeah.
Yeah. If you're doing the things that if you have these ideas or these things that you want to do and you're doing them now, I think then you're probably not going to regret anything later. I mean, at most,
Hmm.
we might have, I'm sure a lot of people, even when they live a good life and have very little regrets, they still might regret like, the time that they're dying or something and not having a little bit more time or something. That's always possible, but that's something you have no control over. We're talking about like stuff
Hmm.
you would theoretically have control over, and I think, yeah, I think those cases you probably wouldn't regret much because you're doing things. It's funny. I
Hmm.
remember my grandparents. I remember because on my mom's side, I always felt bad because like my grandfather like always tell like my grandmother like definitely like kept him from doing things and like he regretted it and I could tell him like that
Hmm.
that was sad. That was a lesson learned essentially. To
Oh,
see that.
definitely. Definitely. Did you ever have a time period in your life where you felt like you were maybe wasting your life or you weren't really
Yeah.
living up to your potential?
I hate the expectations and potential I hate because I think that
I
like
know when I was young, so many people were
I
like, "You
know
have such potential."
the fuck does that mean and why do I have to live up to it?
Yeah, right.
No, yeah, I know. I never like the expectations like placed on people because of the potential. I think causes so much stress. It really does, because it caused me a lot of stress, right? Like all these people were saying stuff. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? So I think there is that. Like I felt that way when I was younger, plenty of times where I felt like I was like not living up to these expectations that people had for me, and that made me somehow a failure. Yeah.
Dude, talk about living up to those expectations. I have been thinking about that a lot recently. So, like, I have this constant narrative going on in my brain that if I don't do it's like everything. It's pervasive pretty much in everything. If I don't do it fast enough, there's not going to be enough left for me, and I'm not going to get what I need. And this whole thing. So, like, I'm constantly rushing everywhere that I go, everything that I'm doing, constantly rushing to get to some spot so eventually I can relax and like take my foot off the pedal. And it's like that story about the successful businessman who goes down to Mexico and finds some dude loafing on the beach playing guitar. And
Yeah.
he's like, and I guess he's fishing and playing guitar. And he's like, if you took your time and got some boats and had a whole bunch of people working for you, you could make a lot of money fishing here. And he's like, well, what would I do then? He's like, well, then you could buy some more boats, have a bigger company. Eventually, in 30 years, you could retire rich. And what would I do then? Well, you could come down to a beach like this and play guitar and fish. Yeah. But like, I feel like I'm caught in this trap where I'm constantly trying to do instead of actually being present and enjoying life right now, I'm constantly trying to do this stuff to get me to that point so that I can enjoy life
And that's the sad
in the
reality of
present
like
now.
everybody. That's like everybody in the United States, right? Like everybody's rushing to get things done now, to get to that magical place where they have the time to do all the things they want to do and relax. And I think it's like it's that stupid idea of scarcity that we were taught that, you have to be number one because there's not enough for everybody, and that's the only way to get as much as you can out of whatever that pot is. And like
Hmm.
I think it screws us up because we don't ever like just enjoy what we're doing. Like Americans are terrible at relaxing, taking a day off. I mean, I see that in myself a lot where
Oh,
like I'll take a day off because like I need a day off and then like I start working. It's like to get something done and to feel productive, to feel like I that day was like it's almost like to make myself feel like that day was worthwhile or valuable. Like you have to get something done. And it's terrible. Like I think we'd be better off if we took more time to just enjoy the time that we have. Because this is really all we
probably.
have. Like that's the funny thing I think we forget all the time is like we act like we have all this time in the future and we we trick ourselves into thinking we have all this magical time where we'll be able to do all these things. It's like, and we think of ourselves as physical now, then, but that's not going to be true. You're going to be way older. You're going to have maybe lots of problems. You might not even be alive then because things can happen. And like, so it's really dangerous, I think, to think that way because we just don't enjoy our lives and we don't take time to like enjoy the present and be present.
Yeah, goodness. Jeez. Life is such a conundrum, man.
I know it sucks, doesn't
It's like the craziest freaking thing. All the time it's just paradoxes left and right.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what the heck's going on.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's like I can tell you like several instances over the past. I mean, I could say a couple weeks when I was like really busy, where like you know, Anna was talking to me, and like I caught myself just totally not paying attention because I was so distracted by other stuff, and I was like, "This is idiot. Like none of this stuff matters. I can wait on all of this. Can wait for an hour or whatever, so I can be present now." You know, and it's like, but if I don't catch myself, I won't do that. And then I miss out on something that's probably more important, which is right now, you know, instead of like some
Yeah.
future. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
hard.
So tricky. Yeah. But
It
dude,
is.
I also get caught in the worry loop of just like I worry that I'm trying to do my best to not regret. Like I try and like
Yeah.
when there are things that I want to do, like I joke with people, but it's not really a joke. It's like they're when they say like what's on your bucket list, pretty much pizza. That's it.
Yeah.
Because everything else that I've wanted to do, I'm pretty much either have done it or in the process of doing it, except for like eating a ton of
Or
pizza
can do it.
because
Yeah. Yeah. Like you will do
I
it.
try and maintain a somewhat healthy physique. But yeah,
I
that's
do
like
like pizza though. Pizza is good.
yeah, but I still constantly just worry that I'm going to get to the end of my life and just be like, you blew it, you idiot.
But you can't though. I mean, in certain sense, you can't
Yeah.
blow it. You're doing it. You are living it. I mean, you are doing it.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, you're doing it however you think it is to be done right now. It is hard though.
Yeah. And it's the only
It is.
way that it could be done.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I
the other
kind
weird
of,
thing, right?
it's kind of a pain in the butt that we think that we have any type of control. Like if it
Like
was a
freedom.
completely
Yeah.
deterministic universe
Yeah.
and we would just be like, well, that's just the way it is.
But we
So
might not have any. You know, that's the other funny thing is we might not have any freedom. And the chances are we probably don't. Like to be realistic, like, you know, we probably misinterpret free choice or what is we think is a free choice, which is really just a bunch of stuff happening in the background of biological synapses, chemicals and whatnot, and circumstance and
yeah.
situation that dictate what we're gonna do, you know?
They did have I forget what it is, but I've read it in a couple books where like the people who have the right and the left side of their brains separated, where uh they they'll just start doing stuff and then they make up a reason for it. So like we
Yeah.
probably do just we
Ad
just
hoc
do
reasoning, right?
whatever and then we make up a reasoning for it all
Oh, dude, I
after the
remember
fact.
doing that. I remember doing that like in you know, in college. Like I decide I wasn't going to go to an exam first and then come up with a reason, you know, after the fact. Like I don't feel good or something, you know? It's because I was
Yeah.
sick or something. You know, you justify it later. We're good at justifying things. That's the other problem,
Hmm.
you know? It is hard though, dude. And it's hard because like I think all of us know too, like we can do almost anything if we put our minds to it and put the time in. But then you get to this conundrum of like, well, how important really is it? And how much am I willing to sacrifice? Because every choice comes with that sacrifice too, of like, I can't do these other things. You know, so if it's like, you know, we went through this not long ago, like, right, learning programming, like that first year, I probably didn't go out much at all. Like I didn't do a lot of things I would have otherwise done because I was trying to learn as quickly as possible and stuff, and it takes a lot of time. And like you have to make those
Hmm.
decisions and it's hard. It is really hard to kind of decide what is really the most important thing right now is very difficult, I think, to figure out.
Hmm. Yeah. But I like the way that you said it. It matters more about right now as opposed to like at the end of your life.
Yeah,
'Cause I think you can just look at your life right now, and if you feel like you would regret dying right now, if you were to die right now, if you would regret
yeah.
things right now, then you probably would regret them later on. But if right
Yeah.
now you'd be cool, then it's all cool.
As long as you keep going in that direction, you're probably fine, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
it's hard.
it's all good. Any other thoughts?
I think if there's something that keeps coming up in your life, you should just do it. Like, I think that's a good rule of thumb for regret. Like, if you keep thinking about, like, oh, I should really get that thing so I could start doing this activity, or I really want to go to this place, and it's a thought that just keeps coming up, just get it out of the way and do it. That way you don't have to
Mm,
worry about it and you don't regret it. I mean, no matter what it takes, just do it. There's always a way to do it. Like people always say too, like traveling, like I can't afford. It's like you can stay in a hostel and stuff. There's plenty of things you can do to decrease the cost significantly. You just have to
mhm.
plan, and I think do it. Yeah.
That great advice. Yeah, that's great advice. Just do it. So, yeah. Anyways, there you have it. How not to regret your life or feel like you wasted your life at the very end of it, or even right now. So, if you enjoyed this episode, like it, share it with friends, give us a good review. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Andy.